Hey there, everybody. It's Tyler Esselman.
And Michael Osinski.
And you are listening to This One Goes to 11.
This One Goes to 11 is the podcast where we invite someone to come talk to us over the internets to share with us what they believe is a perfect album.
So perfect, in fact, Michael, that 10 out of 10 just isn't good enough.
Hey, Tyler, if you were a combination of Muppets, what would be your combination of Muppets?
Oh, an excellent question. I've been told that I am a little bit of Fozzie Bear and a little bit of Kermit. Those two kind of rolled together. With particular people, I'm either Statler or Waldorf. You know, I can get a little animal sometimes, but I feel like Fozzie Bear. I'm a Fozzie Bear son, maybe a Kermit Moon, and Animal Rising, maybe. I don't know.
Okay,
what about you?
All right. Oh, I had never thought of it in terms of horoscopes. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone thinks that they have a little bit of Kermit in them. I feel like I am Kermit, Scooter, and then like
I know which one.
What? Who are you gonna say? Who are you gonna say?
Sam the Eagle.
Yes. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Yes. How could you not say
you
that?
Just
about
are.
me? Yeah,
I'm
Sam the Eagle. I will say, I mean, I feel like when my husband and I are having conversations, sometimes we are a little Statler and Waldorf. I do feel like I can go to the animal or beaker place sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I think I am like, if we did an ancestry, DNA thing, but instead of nationalities, it was about Muppets. I feel like the pie chart would be mostly Sam the Eagle. So
mostly, the gif of Sam the Eagle face palming is pretty much you in my head.
Yeah, I've got a lot of those like saved on my phone, ready to go. But
we should do I don't believe in using AI for these purposes, but it would be fun if there was like an AI-ified version of me as Fozzie Bear and you as Sam the Eagle for like a logo for the pod. That would be fun.
Oh, this is a great idea.
We might just need to commission one of our artist friends to do that for us instead of having AI do it, you know?
Exactly. We're happy to pay our friends to do that. That's what you should do. But
yes.
Anyway, let's get down to brass tacks here. Our guest this week is someone that I know from Chicago, from way back from the first time I lived in Chicago. It's Melissa Young. Melissa Young is an actor, singer, writer, realtor, cabaret sensation, and Madonna stan who has been traveling the country with a Madonna tribute show, Lucky Star, since 2008. As of the writing of this bio, she had seen Madonna in concert 11 times, but as you will hear from the episode, that has now changed. Oh, she put that in the bio. I should have just kept reading. She is a Madonna expert who is happy anytime she gets to talk about the Queen of Pop. But beyond that, she has also traveled the country with her one-woman show, Out and Proud, a show that tells the history of the LGBTQ plus movement. And we're not talking about Madonna, queer history, or singing in some show, or selling real estate. She can be found loving her parrot buddy, Elizabeth, and fighting for fair housing for all.
Let's go, Melissa.
I wonder who she's gonna talk about. I wonder which artist.
I wonder.
But yeah, there's no way to know. There's no way to know.
Guess you'll just have to keep listening.
We should just do that, shouldn't we?
Yes, let's shall.
Melissa Young, welcome to This One Goes to 11. How you doing today?
I'm so excited. Thank you for asking me to be here.
Yeah, you are. I will say, dear listeners, Melissa is one of our special guests, meaning that this is a curated guest for the podcast because Tyler and I realized that there was a particular artist we hadn't talked about yet. And I was like, oh, I know someone who might have one or two things to say about this artist. And so I reached out to Melissa to ask her to be on.
Yes. Yeah, because my creative name is actually Melissa Madonna Young, and I am the grand source of all things. I just spoiled it, didn't I? The artist is...
It's in the name.
But I guess we should make sure, what album hath thou brought before the tribunal today?
Today I have brought the not critically acclaimed, often called her worst album, I have brought Erotica.
See, it's so fun. It's so fun when somebody's just like, "Yep, I'm going to show you what is widely considered their worst album." That's it's a strong way to start.
Why it is not. It is your best.
Yes.
See, okay, I appreciate this because I feel like so often, I mean, we love having these conversations and just being sort of a back and forth about music, but like every once in a while someone comes on and we want them to make like a solid case. So I have no doubt you are well equipped for this.
Oh, I am ready, willing, and able for sure.
Amazing. Well, I will say that I was the Madonna novice of this group, and as has been the case much over the past season or two, where it's just been ones that I'm behind on. Artists who have such an amazingly grand stature that they've just sort of become one of those wallpaper artists, as I like to call them. So Madonna falls into that category for me. So it was up to me today to craft our refresher segment, which is everyone's favorite segment. What do we call that segment, Michael?
We call it the beginner's guide to Madonna's erotica in 60 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Good fucking luck.
Listen, less is more in a situation like this, right? Am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong.
You're not
Not
wrong.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm ready. I think I'm pretty proud of this one. I'm going to have to be on my horse, as they say, to get it done. But I'm going to give it the old college try. Do you have 60 seconds on the clock for me, Michael?
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Another episode, another mononymous legend to check off our list. Madonna, born Madonna Louise Ciccone in Bay City, Michigan, always carried a restlessness in her soul, a desire to create, perform, enrapture, and be witnessed. A dancer by training initially, her move to New York in the late 70s saw her steer herself more in the direction of music, playing in various rock bands with various partners before stepping out on her own with her debut single Everybody in 1982 and her debut, self-titled, full-length album in 1983, and Blast Off. Madonna claimed her crown as the queen of pop throughout the 80s, Like a Virgin, Material Girl, Papa Don't Preach, Pepsi, Sean Penn. God, she was busy in the 80s. Awards, pearl clutching for her bold embrace of her sexuality and outspokenness, the whole bit. But we find Madonna in the 90s. Her fifth studio album, Erotica, was released simultaneously with the notorious coffee table book entitled Sex, a collection of poems, stories, essays, and some pretty explicit photos too. While the uproar around the book may have somewhat overshadowed Erotica itself, the album is still noted for showing Madonna at her most fearless, undeniably authentic, a deeply risky piece of the puzzle that is Madonna.
Woo!
Bravo.
Oh boy.
Oh, I'm sweating.
Take a breath. Oh my word. All right. Well, Melissa, you've listened to the podcast before, so you know that it's up to you to evaluate Tyler's case. So how using whatever scale you want, you get to set the rubric. How do you think he did?
I'm going to give him a 7. He did really well. There's a few things he left out, but I'll give him a 7 for sure.
Okay.
7 out of 10. I could be that. I could be a C student. I'm all right with that.
we appreciate
like a 7.5, honestly. Like it's pretty good.
No, we're going with 7. You went with 7 initially. This we
all right. I'll stick.
We're not going to be precious about it. No, I appreciate that. It's one of those things where the more I listened and the more I was just like trying to absorb everything that I possibly could about Madonna. You were like, people use such gigantic words to describe this woman, and like to the point where she's. I mean, even relative to some of the other artists, particularly like female solo recording artists that we have talked about on this podcast, I feel like the language was somewhat grander when describing her influence, describing the impact of like her work across disciplines. So if I'm getting a 70% on that, I'm okay with that.
Well, and it's really hard to encapsulate someone who's been around for 40 years. You know what I mean? Like she's been a part of the zeitgeist for 40 years, so longer than either of you were alive. I was alive, but you were not when Madonna came on the scene. So the one thing you did miss, her name is Madonna Louise Veronica Ciccone.
Oh, I missed one. Okay.
Ooh, okay.
You missed
Veronica.
So she does Veronica.
Actually, I didn't know that either, and I'm a gay man. I feel like I should know.
Yeah. I know a little bit more. I do own the Encyclopedia Madonica, which is the encyclopedia about Madonna, the Encyclopedia Madonica.
Makes
sense.
Like
one of my prized possessions, and I was going to pull it out and have that, but I was like, no, get the Girly Show concert tour shirt. That's what you should do first. So
I'll give you 7,000 points right off the bat for just owning the Encyclopedia Madonica. But okay, but before we get too deep on Madonna herself, we like to kick this off. You're a friend or loved one of the pod. That's why you're here, right? And so we want to know about you. We want to know kind of what your relationship is with music, and like how it exists in your life on a day-to-day basis.
I'm a singer and an actor and a writer, and like, as you wear like 874 hats. I'm also a realtor. So that's like, I say I'm a realtor so that I can support my singing and acting habits.
Ooh, I like that. 6,000
so
points.
music, thank you. And music is kind of, and I also got sober when I was 27. And so I've been sober for 21 years. And there's a piece of like 12 step that talks about higher power. And for me, I would say that music is, the train in which God travels, for sure. So music is the freight train in which God travels, which is a quote from a musical from, Passing Strange, which is one of my favorite musicals. And I would say that that's a true fact for me, that like I definitely find spirituality and connection. And so like if I am feeling blue, if I am feeling any kind of way, music is the answer to either the remedy or indulging in that feeling. If it's grief and I need to grieve, I can grieve through song. I can do everything. If I want to celebrate, I can celebrate through song. If I need to just mellow out, I can mellow out through music. So there isn't like an extension of me where music doesn't exist. So much so that they call me the singing realtor, where like I'll be writing a contract and I'm mindlessly singing about earnest money. Like, usually some kind of bluesy, like, well, how much earnest money deposit do you want to make today? The house is 200,000. It should be like, let's look in the fives. If you have 5,000, like literally singing. And I'm mindlessly, and like clients will be like, oh, this is the singing part. Here it is. Here's the singing part of the singing realtor.
That's
and
what
like,
that is.
And it's like usually nonsensical stuff. But so there's also a piece that music gives me that nothing else does, which is this freedom to be me. So I consider myself, I would say, I'm a tall Muppet. and I'm
called that before too. Actually, imagine that.
Yeah, I'm like, very like, So so I'd say I'm probably like Scooter, Miss Piggy, and Kermit and Big Bird all like were one Muppet. It would be me.
Love that.
And so I'm very Muppety.
Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine all of those Muppets put together, and I've never heard that combination of Muppets before. But there you go.
You don't have to imagine; she's here.
Yeah, she is.
And I just think that in framing music, you have to think about like all the different kinds of music that's even been around in my lifetime. I'm going to be 50 in May. And take a look.
Congratulations,
kids. Yeah. Sobriety and skincare. Okay, use your sunscreen.
It'll do wonders.
Sunscreen and hydration. Drink your water, kittens. And so like, and I think about it like from my mother loving like, the Supremes and the Manhattan, but like Supremes and Manhattan Transfer and Barbra Streisand and Barry Manilow. And then like we get into like Marvin Gaye and Nina Simone and some soul and like, I'm from Philadelphia. So Philadelphia soul singers, and you get Daryl Hall and John Oates, and then you get into Madonna.
Yeah.
So and then all the musical theater, and then my stepfather loved classical music. So I have this like influence of music,
Yeah.
And we can't forget ABBA. Like, who's forgetting ABBA? ABBA.
So, shame on you for forgetting ABBA.
How dare! Like, I used to sing into a hairbrush. A friend of mine who lived down the way, Sonia, had all the ABBA albums, and we would sing them into her hairbrushes. And I can't think of a time in my life where music isn't such a huge presence and connects me to family and connects me to time periods in my life. And like I can instantly nostalgically, as they say in the trauma world of things, like the body keeps score and
sure
sensory, and my ears will often be like, you hear that song and nowadays in the supermarket, which let me tell you what a thrill that is, kids, to hear the hits from when you're young in the supermarket. Yep. And you're like, oh my God, I'm jamming in the supermarket. But like you hear it and you're instantly transported. And that's like, there's like magic fairy dust in music.
Let me give you 10,000 points for being a tall amalgamated Muppet. So I'll give you 10K for that. Then I'm also going to give you another 9K for, music kind of serving as the higher power for you, because were you raised religiously? If you don't mind me asking,
I was, my stepfather was a minister, and like we did go to church and things like that. But my mom was never like, you have to do this. And there was like a point in time where she also like encouraged us to go to church with our friends. So like if our friend was going to temple, we would go to temple, or we'd go to Catholic mass and things like that. So we could see how different religions were working. So it was never a like, you must be this. So like I was raised UCC and Lutheran, and they're like the coolest of the Christians, I guess. So UCC, because they were the first church to ordain women, and that's a very my mom's a lobbyist and a politician. So she was the executive. So she is very like, everything is very, she was the executive director for the New Jersey Coalition for Battered Women for the majority of her career. But she, affected welfare reform across the country, as far as, so it like starts in New Jersey, all the work that she did. So that's the tree from which I fall is the Free to Be You and Me, Marlo Thomas March on Washington in the 70s, and has pictures standing next to, Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan mom. So that's the tree from which I fall.
Your mom's really dope. That's really cool.
So where does Madonna fit in this whole journey? Like, if you could you talk more? I guess we should ask you two
let's go
questions here. Like, first, how did you discover her? And then, I mean, I'm assuming Erotica is not the first album of hers that you discovered. So maybe we should focus mostly on how Madonna came into your life.
So Madonna was everything, I have an older sister, Jennifer, and she obviously had all the cool music, because she had all the cool, like, she was just older than me, so she had the cool music. So Madonna came out, and so I got introduced to Madonna, I would say, through Jennifer. And then Jennifer begged my mom to get MTV, and Madonna was one of the original MTV people.
Oh,
and,
definitely.
Madonna was different than everybody else. Like she wasn't, you have to think it was, it wasn't, and like Cyndi Lauper and like Annie Lennox and stuff wasn't, and I love them too. They weren't like, if I'm thinking of female artists of the 80s, and like Janet Jackson comes later. So Madonna was the first one to like, she had like greasy hair that was like matted, and she was kind of naked, but also like sort of baggy, like tight clothes and baggy clothes at the same time. And she wasn't like this gender specific oop oopy doop female pop singer. And I remember being like, what is that? And I'm like a single digit human thinking, what is she? She's like me. She's like me. Like she doesn't, like, she's a little different, and she has messy hair that's kind of wavy and frizzy, and she is singing about dancing and having fun. And it's not about like, I need the boy to survive or I'll die kind of thing. And that pushed a button in me. And I think it pushed a button in every little, female identifying human at that time, that we were all captivated. And so was the male identified humans too, not to make it all very binary right now, but at that time it was very binary. And she was liberation and strength and rebellion, and she was sex, and she was hot, and she was all of those things on her terms. And it wasn't a like me. It was, I don't care if you like me because I like me. And that was Madonna from the start. And that rings different. It just rings different. And it did for me.
There's never been a part of her career where I feel like she's been caving into someone else's demands or questions. I mean, from the start, she has been unforgivingly Madonna. I mean, I wonder too, like, something I wanted to ask you about her was, do you feel like everything that she's doing and she's done over her career is authentically her? Or do you feel like are we seeing different sides of her, different faces of her as her career evolves? Like, what's your take on that in terms of who she is amidst everything that she's made?
Yeah, and I think that she evolves as she grows and changes as a person. Her music grows and changes as a person. And so at first it was this like survival, and dance was her survival, and she's coming from the dance world. She danced with you talked about it a little bit, that she came to New York to be a dancer. She came to
Martha Graham,
Pearl Lang. Yeah, Pearl Lang, Alvin Ailey, the American, dance center. Yeah. And she worked at Dunkin' Donuts, and she was a hat check girl at the Russian Tea Room. And I did a Madonna show for 15 years. I started touring the country with it in 2008. So I have lots of facts about Madonna. Yeah. But so I think that like as she grows as a person, so she comes from like Michigan. Her dance teacher tells her to go to New York. She goes to New York. She gets there and she starts to evolve culturally as she gets to know all this different world. And a lot of that world was danceteria and the nightclubs and things like that. And then you take her out of that world and she's in Hollywood and she's in California and she's changing and they're ripping her to shreds in the press. The whole Madonna whore complex being lived out in one individual is her legacy forever, because she wasn't this look at me, like me. She was like, look at me, I like me, like I said. And so, she evolves just as we do as people. Like if you think of yourself, and even, you know, however many 24 hours you've been present on the planet, how many different versions of you have existed? I'm guessing you don't have the same haircut you had 40 years ago, you know? And I'm guessing you're not listening to the same music you were, you know, 30 years ago when you were born, or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. Like tastes change, you know, sometimes people get stuck, but Madonna never got stuck. She allowed the cultural influences that were surrounding her and continues to influence the music she's making and the art she's making.
She's one of those artists that makes you feel like the very, you know, the very universal feeling of creativity as a force in her, you know, because you can kind of see her as a conduit for that because of how many different shapes she's taken over the course of her. And so maybe I'm jumping a little bit, but this makes me wonder, you know, like, what do you think of her? I mean, let's just talk about the fact that you saw her the other night. And yes, so, dramatic night. It was in the news.
Yes, I saw her in Philadelphia at the Wells Fargo Center with my sister. We're seeing her again in Pittsburgh because, you know, we're those fans that like one is not enough and two is never enough. Anyway, I want to stand up for her for one. The ticket says 8:30 p.m. and the DJ, who is the opening act, starts at 8:30 p.m. Just so we're clear, everybody, the show does actually start at 8:30. It's just that the DJ, the opening act, goes on first. Just like any pop song you go to see that has an opening act. Anyway, so the DJ started at 8:30 and then Madonna came on at 10. The DJ played for an hour. They took down his stuff and then we had 15 minutes to pee and then, you know, Madonna. It's one of my, I've seen her, this is the 12th time I've seen her in concert. I've seen every tour since Girly Show.
That's good. Yeah.
I've seen every single tour since Girly Show. So that's Girly Show. She took an 8-year hiatus from touring to make people. She had Lourdes and Rocco. And then we get to Drowned World. And then after Drowned World is Reinvention, Confessions, Rebel Heart, Sticky and Sweet, MDNA, which is the shirt I have on. It's Rebel Heart, and then, Madam X. And then, you know, now Celebration. So it is, she sang songs in concert that I have never heard her sing in concert.
Wow.
And obviously I cried because it was Madonna. And like she had her kids on stage with her. I think it's one of my top 3 for sure.
That's great.
It's a wonderful celebration of everything that we just talked about. And like there are moments where she has, spoiler alert for anyone who's going to see the concert later. She has like versions of herself, like the dancers dressed up like the different eras of her. And and they have like a very artistic, like kind of blank face. And then like they're wearing like, you know, like the brown braids and black latex from Human Nature, and you know, the cone bra from Blonde Ambition tour. And so there's all the like different little pieces of her, and like the cowboy hat from Music. And so it was, and it was like her, and she would like dance with herself, and there would be these moments of like loving every piece of herself to get to who she is today, which is really wild. And the thing I will say that I love, which is one of my favorite quotes of hers, is the most controversial thing Madonna has ever done is stick around.
The most controversial thing Madonna has ever done is stick around. That's really well said. 1,000,000 points for her sticking around, we'll say.
For sticking around. She just had the audacity to stay. And especially like you have to think all the like sexism and stuff that she faced because she wanted to do it the way she wanted to do it. She, you know, at Sire and Maverick, and she was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like Cyndi Lauper. I don't want to be like Janet Jackson. I want to be like me. I don't want to do that. No, I want to do this new thing. And they're like, no. And she's like, I don't care. I want to do it. This is what I want to do. And they were like, not so much. And she's like, I don't care, I'm doing this. And she just kept doing it. And so it's often funny to me that people are so, I'm like, you realize that this is what Madonna would have been doing on social media had social media existed in 1982.
Right.
Like, I need you to understand that, like, basically Madonna is just still Madonna. Like, she's still Madonna. Of course she's got like tons of filler in her face. Like, of course she's like, you know, having like her new boyfriend's in his 20s and she's 65. Of course she's like constantly in a bustier on Instagram. Of course she's always like, and like, you know, posing. Like, have you met Madonna? This is what she's been doing since 1982. Why would she be doing it differently? But because she's 65, there's this, now she's like sexism, but now she's got ageism. Like, ugh. And you don't have anybody being like, Mick Jagger, could you please stop thrusting your hips? You might be breaking a hip, you know? But because she's a woman, they're like, isn't it time for you to do your jazz standards album, Cyndi Lauper, Annie Lennox, who both did that? Which, no, I love both of those albums for the record. But like, you know, there's nothing wrong with a jazz standard. We have a jazz standard on Erotica. It's just very much like, this is Madonna continuing to be Madonna. Like, how dare you expect her to suddenly be like, oh, you know what, now that I have 6 children and I, you know, almost died of an infection and I fell off a horse once and broke my hip, I'm going to stop singing songs about sex because I'm 65 and I should no longer have sex. It's like, grow up, everybody. Grow up.
Well, that's looking at her, because you know I am a Spotify guy, and you looking at the This Is Madonna playlist. It's like, man, these songs are from all over the place. There's no real one era that. I mean, obviously the 80s is kind of like when she came up, so you have a concentration of songs from the 80s, but like they're from the aughts. I'm remembering songs from, you know, like when I was. You know, when I was a kid, that was Madonna collaborating with people that that I think is really brave to collaborate with, and putting herself in those kind of risky situations. It's all to her credit for sure. Okay, so I want to talk up a little bit about, you said this tour, the Girly Tour, was the first tour that you saw her on, for the tour for the album that we're talking about.
Yes, my Girly show. It was the very first tour I saw her because I was too young for Blonde Ambition. And Erotica, I remember purchasing it. I walked across the Smithfield Street Bridge with Lisa Delmar, and we went to pick up our pre-ordered sex books from like B. Dalton bookseller or something at Station Square. Yes. And it's in it, and inside the sex book you got a copy of Erotica. It's the disc. And I feel like Erotica is a complete thought. It is the cycle of love and all of its aspects, and the cycle of sex and love and desire and passion and heartbreak, be it friend, and be it as well as like the loves of her life, her best friends, and as well as like the many lovers she had, and what that all looks like in song. And it's a cycle, and it's like 3 cycles of love if you look at each track, and it is perfectly positioned. She knows what she's doing, and it goes from, you know, lust to love to heartbreak, lust to love to heartbreak, lust to love to heartbreak, to where it all begins. So this album is a complete thought about sex, love, passion, drive, animal instincts, death. And it's like a cycle of love life. It really, truly is.
Did it hit you right away? Did you know right away that it was going? Did it just like smack you right in the face and say like that love immediately?
So I'm like a freshman in college when this comes out,
and
perfect. I'm away from home for the first time, and my idol is singing about sex, and that's what you know. That's all freshman year of college is hormones and trying to hope your acne starts to clear up, and and like wearing clothes and staying out too late, and you know, and dogs and cats and living together, mass hysteria. And it's just so, and it was like crazy because it was like the 90s, and everybody, you know, and AIDS and was very real, and taking people and taking artists left and right, but we still weren't talking about it, and it was still stigmatized. And I'm in a theater program, you know, my love language is touch, hello. And it was just like, whew, it was just a good time. And I remember there's there was this dude from the art school, and we read the sex book together and listened to Erotica from start to finish. And I'm, queer and he's gay, and it's like, and we're both like, are we, and I'm like, I like everybody, and he's like, I like boys usually, but I think and I'm like, yeah. And so, but that's the power of Erotica, and that's the power of Madonna, is that two people are like, yeah, you're not really what I like, but in this moment, let's do this. So
yeah, there's something that transcends our ideas of preference and all that, that kind of drive.
In that moment, everything was sexy,
cool.
and everything and it was like safe because we cared about each other a great deal. And anyway, so there was it hit me right away. Let's just say.
That's amazing. Michael, do you remember your first experience of this album?
I never really had a first experience with this album because this was during the time I was still living under my parents' roof, and so this was when, and I'm going to Catholic school for my entire life. So I mean at the time I remember thinking, when the sex book came out, I think I remember like conversations around my house being like, oh my God, what is she? It's crazy. This is insane. Now, like looking back, I mean, I will say like Madonna's she's not my gay icon specifically, but she's like, in the pantheon, of course. But like looking back, I see this particular album at the time she was shocking people, but I don't know that I would fully attribute this to her, but I do sort of feel like she had to shock everyone so that now we could have much more open conversations about sex and sexuality. I mean, I think there's probably other forces were at play. I mean, like I think early 90s, not to get all feminist theory here, but early 90s was also when Judith Butler was writing a lot. And I think that I think that on a pop culture side of things, Madonna did sort of kick open the door so that there are things that we see on television today and on social media and things we hear in music that would not have been possible without her. I mean, come on, like Megan Thee Stallion, Wet Ass Pussy, like come on, that would not have existed. Yeah.
It's because of Madonna, because she was like, why does freaking Prince get to sing Cream? And I have to sing, I have to be so guarded, and I roll around on the floor in a wedding dress because I fell, like a virgin, on the MTV Video Music Awards. She did not plan to, she was like, cool, I'll just roll around on the floor, this works. And she is the expert improver, yes, and all over that floor. And so she was very much like, I want to be able to sing about sex the way they do, and I'm going to. And if you're going to call me a whore, fine, let's go. And she was like, let's do it. I'm proud. And Michael's right. You watch like Christina Aguilera will thank her. Beyonce thanks her. Like everybody thanks her, because had she not said, I'm going to burn it down. Let me burn this down. And then you guys can, I'm going to just light him on fire so you guys can soar. And she did it. She did that thing. Thank you for saying that, Michael. Yes, Madonna is the pioneer of all.
There's the singing realtor for you. All right, well, let's listen to a song, shall we? Let's we ask you to pick a standout track from this album. You've already given us a great glimpse into kind of like what you feel like the structure is, but if we asked you to pick one standout track from the album, tell our listeners, what did you choose?
I picked In This Life because I don't think people know this song, and it's a very important song.
Okay, amazing. So if you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, this is new, everybody. If you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, you're going to hear the whole song. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you're going to hear a little amuse-bouche, a little taste, a few seconds of it. But go listen to the whole thing, and we'll talk more about it on the other side.